Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Yotam Shinan from Tabnine, and today Simon McKinley from Wallaby joined me. Hi, Simon.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I invited Simon to talk about an amazing tool that I just came across a few days ago. It's called Quokka, and it's one of Wallaby's main products, and for a good reason. I was blown away just from playing with it on my VS Code for a couple of minutes. And it was fascinating enough, and my mind was blown that I decided that it will be better just to have Simon here with me to show you what Quokka is all about and how it can be combined with Tabnine to boost your productivity to the stars while you code. So
Yeah,
Simon,
I look forward to showing you guys what I can do. I've got a little script that I was playing around with earlier today.
okay, so I think without further ado, maybe before we jump into VS Code, can you just tell just a little bit of a background about who you are and what Quokka and Wallaby is, and give us the background.
Yeah, sure. So let me start by telling you a little bit about our company, Wallaby. So we create software development tools to enhance developer productivity, particularly in the JavaScript, TypeScript space. So we've got two main products. We have
Mhm.
Wallaby, which came first, and we have Quokka, which we're going to have a look at today. And I've been with Wallaby for just over 3 years now. My background is as a software developer, like a hardcore software developer. That's what I really love doing. But I've been in a number of different roles, from manager through to just engineer. And I really like the diversity, so I like doing a little bit of everything. I like showing people our products as well. That I guess more of what you do, the developer evangelist. So I like everything and the diversity. So that's pretty much about myself. But yeah, as I said before, I'm pretty excited to show you guys today what Quokka can do, especially with Tabnine.
Can you share your screen, please?
Yeah. Let's jump into the demo.
Okay, so we are in the Bubbleverse.
All right, I'm just going to introduce our project a little bit before we begin. We've got a really simple Node project. So we have a package JSON with no dependencies, and we have a calculated TS file that's incomplete. We're going to have to get this thing working as part of what we're doing today. And I've got another little file, just a backup of that TypeScript file. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to code the missing add function and the missing divide function,
Mhm.
and we want to test that it works, right? We want to make sure that the code that we're adding is actually doing what we expect it to.
Okay.
So
Usually this is what we expect from our code to function.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. Always.
Not always.
So
Sometimes I write code just to mess up with myself and making it not work on for a reason.
you're not writing production code, right?
No.
All right. So we're gonna create our add function, and we're gonna have a couple of parameters. So this is a TypeScript function. I'm gonna have num1 and num2. Num1 is actually a number. Num2 is a number, and we're going to return a number, and we're going to return num1 plus num2. Okay.
Simple.
And yeah, simple. We're going to want to do the same thing for our divide. So let's do the same thing for divide. We're going to have, no, let's call it numerator, which is a number, and denominator, number. And again, we return a number, and numerator divided by denominator. And we might want to add some error checking. So we might want to say, if the denominator is 0, throw new error not divided by 0. Okay. So we've written this. It looks like it's good. Now we want to test it. Okay, so let's go to our terminal. How are we going to test this? We have to run it in Node. There are a couple of ways we can do that. We can install TypeScript and compile it, and then run that in Node. or we could probably install TS node, which would let us then run our TypeScript file. So let's do that. Let's go npm install TypeScript and TS node as dev dependencies.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to have to configure TypeScript. So stick with the default TypeScript config, and I should be able to go ts node calculator.ts. Oops, I've got a typo in it. It's not TSC. No, it's not TSC node. It's TS node. Okay. Add does not exist. I forgot to save my file. Okay, so let's save our file, and let's try it again. It didn't do anything. Oh, I haven't output any values. Okay,
That's a lot of work for a calculator, man.
It can be easier. We'll see that in a minute. Okay, so console log result. Okay, that's good. We're going to have a similar thing here. Okay, that all looks good. Now let's try. Okay, let's save. Okay, so it's given us some good values. That's what we wanted. Now let's check if we divide by 0. And I'm not going to forget to save this time. And let's try it out. Cannot divide by 0. Okay, so our code seems to be working. But if we were writing some production code, or we wanted to take this code and put it into one of our actual project code files, we've now got these unnecessary console logs that we have to clean up and get rid of and do a whole bunch of other cleanup work. So let's see what the same workflow or same task looks like with a Tabnine and a Quokka enabled for that file. So I'm going to change the calculator back to where we started. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'm going to remove the node modules as well.
Start from scratch.
Yeah, let's start from scratch. And let's get rid of those dependencies. Okay, so we're back to where we started. Mm-hmm. Okay, happy days. And I don't need tsconfig. We can get rid of that as well. All right, so the last thing I want to do is I actually have Tabnine disabled. Let's go enable that as well. Okay. Now, Quokka has a few settings. We're going to actually make sure one of them is turned on. So down the bottom corner, you'll see there's a Quokka start view that gets installed when you activate Quokka. We're going to go to settings, and there's a nice little setting called autolog. And this automatically shows the runtime value for every line of code.
For every line.
And it can also be changed for every single line of code. So no console logs. And this behavior can be changed after starting Quokka using the toggle autolog command. But by default, we're going to turn it. It's on right now for my environment. So let's go back here and let's start Quokka. So I've used a shortcut hotkey to start Quokka, Control-K, Q. We can also start Quokka. We can also go Quokka.js, start on current file. And there are a lot of other Quokka commands that you can do to, for example, only run on save. But so Quokka started automatically. It's running our TypeScript code, even though it wouldn't compile in TypeScript. And I don't have any dependencies installed. So already I'm in a much faster world than having to go and install dependencies, work out, do I want to use TS node, do I want to use node and compile things and set up TS configs and everything else. So now let's actually start running our code. Well, before we do, we've actually got some extra indicators that have appeared now that we're running this file in Quokka.
I'm seeing I'm seeing blue comments that appeared suddenly that are telling, that are telling me
Quokka doing that for us.
And they tell me exactly what each line is about to produce.
That's right. So, and down the bottom, you'll see that Quokka has actually opened up this output window that's effectively showing the same thing, but perhaps with a little bit more detail, stack traces and so forth. Okay. All right, let's add our add function. So we're going to say, so Tabnine's told us we've got. Okay, so the parameter names aren't the same as I had before, but I'm okay with X and Y.
But see what happens if you open the parentheses and start writing the word number, or just n. What happens then? Yeah, you can
Mm-hmm.
you can go with that too.
And now it knows num2.
Yeah,
So I can have my parameter names. All right.
yeah.
And okay, again, Tabnine's giving me the type. That's good. And I want this to be a number. Quokka's running, and it's giving us some different output now. So it's telling us that we're returning undefined from here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what happens if we add the num1 plus, Tabnine actually suggested to add the 2, so that's pretty cool. All right, and we've got 3, and we've got 2. We've got this 2 is coming from this last parameter. One of the cool things that you can do in Quokka is you can select a parameter. You can select any variable or expression, and you're going to see that value being output here as well. So you can see parameter num1 is 1, parameter num2 is 2, and I could select num1 plus num2, and I get the 3.
This is so useful.
Yeah, so Quokka, the runtime values for your code, you can explore them right then and there. So let's add our divide function. So we're going to say divide. Oh, it's none. Now it knew number 1 was a number. It's probably going to tell me number 1, number 2 based on what I did above. Is that right?
Probably.
Okay. It's AI, so you don't really know what it's doing. Okay, well, I want to see what it does if I try and do the numerator and denominator, see how close it gets.
Okay.
Okay, so numerate. Ooh, that's cool. And and now it's also suggesting number.
Is the second option what you're looking for?
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I like it. And okay, so let's see if it. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's pretty straightforward.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. And we want to put our error check in place. So we are going to. Oh, I forgot to tell you. All this time, we haven't even saved this file. So Quokka's actually running on your file on the unmodified changes. So you don't even have to save it with Quokka. So that was one of the things the problems that we ran into before. But let's do our denominator check.
So smart.
If the denominator is 0, throw new error. Okay, let's see. Cannot. Is it going to tell me? There we go. There's my tab line. Cool. Very cool. All right. And I might want to reformat that a little bit. Okay, so we can actually see the result of these things straight away. Like I said, just simply by selecting an expression. And I put these try-catch blocks in place just because we were experimenting and I wanted code to work before those functions necessarily existed. If I get rid of those, and let's see what happens if we divide by 0. All right, so Quokka's actually given you that error, cannot divide by 0, right in line, and it shows you where it's being thrown by as well.
And I'm seeing green, white, and red squares on the left-hand side. Can you talk about what they do there? What are they?
Yeah, so these squares that you're seeing indicate which part of your code was executed or not executed or had errors. So the red color, along with the red text, indicates an error occurred on this particular line of code. The green color actually means that all of the parts of this line of code that could execute did execute. And the white color means that this particular line of code didn't execute. So here you can see we're dividing by 0. So let's see again what happens if we divide by 0.5. You should see this red square becomes a white and this white square becomes green because that's the path of your code. Okay, and exactly what I expected to happen would happen. So they give you like this insight into your code and how it's executing and which parts are working or not. There's actually another color that we can't see. So you can see here. So we're saying if denominator equals 0, so that's never true. That's always false for the current set of data that we have, or the parameters that we're using. So what I could do is I could put an or. So the first part of the statement is going to fail, and then we're just going to break out of the if statement. So anything that I put in the or is never going to happen. So if I say or the numerator is 0, I don't want an or. The or is going to make it execute. I'll say and the numerator, let's say, is not 0. And you can see that the color of the square changed. It's now a yellow color. And a yellow color means that it partially executed. So not all of the code on this particular line executed, only the first part executed, but this second part never executed. And you can see if I select it, Quokka tells us it's not available. It's not available. Exactly, because it never got run. And you would see the same thing if you selected this guy. In fact, this code never gets run, so you don't see any value at all. So that's like a really basic version, or demo of what Quokka could do, especially with Tabnine. One of the things that you'd find immediately useful is Tabnine is making these suggestions. We don't know if those suggestions are, I mean, obviously we know by looking at the suggestions and reading the code, but it's very different from running it and testing that code, and Quokka is actually testing it for you right as Tabnine is making the suggestions. So that's a pretty cool combination.
It's such a safe environment to work in when you think about it.
Well, safe and super productive as well. Like, I'm not writing code, I'm not jumping off to the console. Every time you jump off to the console to do something, you're context switching, and you lose your train of thought, or you get interrupted and go and have a coffee or something before you, now I'll get back into my code. So it helps you,
or just generally get frustrated.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, it certainly helps you stay in the flow, as I'm sure Tabnine does. What I wouldn't mind showing you briefly is one of the more powerful things of Quokka. So I'm going to go features of Quokka. So I'm going to go and turn off that auto log setting, and I'm going to restart on this file. So now we're not logging every single value. Now we'll only log values when we select them.
Oh, that's like a real noise reduction.
Exactly. So like I said before, that auto log feature can be a little bit noisy, so a lot of people don't have it turned on. So this would be my normal workflow. I'd probably have it turned off, but for a demo, it's good to kind of see what's going on and see what Quokka can do. But over to the left of VS Code, you'll see there's a Wallaby Tools icon. And if you click on that, we actually show this thing called Value Explorer, and Value Explorer allows you to explore the logged value. Now, if it was a string, all you're going to see is a string. But in the case of a more complex value, like this object, you can see it's got a couple of functions. So that's pretty cool. Let's see what happens if we were to say, let's create a constructor. And I might stitch a property onto calculator. So I might say this.version equals 1.0.0, and I'll make that a string. Okay, so now we can see in Value Explorer, we've got our functions and we've got a version property. And the version property may actually not be a string. It may be a more complex object. It has something like major, minor, revision, whatever. And I'll go back and I'll log the calculator, and now we're seeing the version is displayed there. So the Value Explorer really comes to shine when you're working with data whose shape you don't actually know yet. So let's say you're integrating with an external API. You've used Quokka to make the HTTP request to grab the JSON and turn that back into an object. And now you want to know, what does this data have that I just called this API, and what could I possibly do with that? So you may, for instance, be able to say, all right, I really want to get this major version out of this. Let's say that this was some API call that we made. I can say copy the path and calculate .version.major. And we can see one. You see, I've added this special comment here. This is a magic Quokka thing. So you could have Quokka persist outputting values with a magic comment. So you can select values. That's a real quick and easy way to get a value. But if you wanted the value to be emitted on 1 or 2 lines, you just add this comment with a question mark after it, and Quokka will show you that value as well.
What other magic tricks are hidden there?
So here's another cool one. It's probably not too easy to see in this particular scenario, but we have our / question mark and a full stop, and that will tell you how long it took to execute that particular line of code. In fact, you can even, if you wanted to, say to Quokka, look, you can say to Quokka, I'll just find my command, profile this particular code, and where do you want to see the results, in VS Code or Chrome DevTools? Let's open it in VS Code, and Quokka will actually profile your code for you and show you how long everything took to execute. And you can open this up in a heat map as well. I'm not sure if I have the Flame graph extension installed. I do, and you can explore it in there. And you can also open it in Chrome DevTools and play around. So there's a lot that Quokka can do besides what I've shown you today. One of the coolest things that I think personally that I use often is for VS Code specifically. Quokka ships with a curated set of interactive examples. So think of interactive examples. Most of them are sourced from MDM docs. So we've taken those MDM docs, we've made sure that all of those examples are safe for you to run in your editor, that they're not connected to anything, they're not making web requests and so forth, and that they'll produce results that are meaningful to you. So for example, I'm going to close this calculator now.
Okay.
When we're going to have a quick look at, let's say, so Quokka new file is the command that we want. And you can see there's a hotkey for that, Control-KL. And I'm going to say, all right, I want to create a new file, and it could be a plain old JavaScript file or a TypeScript file, which is great for experimenting. But in this particular case, I want to know what array slice does. Okay, so you can see there's some filtering that's in place, and let's have a look at array slice.
Oh,
and
you get a whole example.
There's hundreds of examples. I think there's 500-ish examples off the top of my head. But you can start to, obviously you can see the results and it's telling you what's expected. But you can start to play around with it as well. So, what happens if I say 2.5? Okay, I get elephant. And not just for like array methods, it might be something more like, okay, let's try something like reduce, array.reduce. I always forget the parameters for array.reduce.
The accumulator.
Okay. And the current value.
Yeah, the current value.
So, yeah, but even there are other things like on string, it's like there's string in JavaScript, there's string.subster and string.substring, and I always forget which one is which. And it's just a really quick and easy way to actually run the code, play with it, even copy paste it into another file. And I'm not jumping off to the browser. I'm not Googling something. Everything's there for us straight away. And Quokka has some other smarts in place as well. So for example, let's say now I want to work with an extra library to do something for me. And I might say
something you have to require.
Yeah, so I might say I'm gonna require Lodash. So const Lodash equals require Lodash. And you would have seen in my project, I'm not using Lodash, and so it can't find it. But Quokka allows you to load it just for this file, just for right now. So like a temporary node installation. So if I want to install this, I could just run this command, and Quokka is going to go and install Lodash. And here we go, Lodash is installed. So that's gone and run npm install. It's made sure that it's available for my file. And in fact, I showed you the value explorer before, right? So let's go Lodash and select that guy. Go back into Value Explorer. Whoops, here it is. And I can actually see all of the functions. Quokka is actually looking at the Lodash library and getting all of that information. It's not going to necessarily tell you the functions, the parameters that are available for those functions, but you might then be able to go and explore and work out a little bit from what's happening there. And if I was to stop and restart Quokka, so I'm going to say stop all Quokkas, and I'm going to use my hotkey to restart Quokka, and it's going to tell me I can't find Lodash anymore. Well, we installed it just for that temporary session, but you could instead, if you wanted to, go and install it for the project, and that will go and install it as a dependency for your project. And if we go to our package.json, we can see Lodash is sitting there waiting for us. So the Quokka is pretty powerful. It's actually got a lot of basic features that are really easy for people to get started.
So Simon, what I'm seeing here, the combination of Quokka and Wallaby together seems to me like, first of all, as I'm not even talking about Tabnine now, I'm just talking about Quokka and Wallaby. It seems to be like a mandatory combination in every code editor. It doesn't even matter if you're a senior dev, that if you've been writing code for 20 years and you just want to get even better and faster, or if you're taking your first steps in JavaScript now. I'm thinking as a developer advocate, the next time someone will approach me and will ask, well, show me how to start writing JavaScript. Take me to the first tour in the TypeScript world. The first thing that I'm going to tell them is make sure you have Quokka installed on your VS Code before you do anything. And this makes me think, is Quokka and Wallaby available for more IDs?
Yeah, they are. So Quokka is available for VS Code, for JetBrains editors. So that includes WebStorm, IntelliJ IDE, PHP Storm, like all of their editors.
As well, the 300 editors they have.
That's right. That's right. As well as Sublime Text and Atom. And our other products, Wallaby is available for all of the same, but also for Visual Studio. In terms of like applicability of Quokka and Wallaby to developers, Quokka absolutely fits, like you said, whether you're a junior developer or an experienced senior developer. Quokka is applicable for both workflows. So if you want to prototype and start to learn language features and you're just a student or not only just getting into even programming, Quokka can really help you out and shortcut your learning experience. And for more seasoned developers, you may be working in a massive code base and you're working like a gnarly algorithm and you don't know exactly how it's going to work, and trying to do that in your main code base, you've got to compile everything and test everything, and that may not be feasible. And with Quokka, you can just prototype and have a little scratch pad that's executing everything, actually write your entire algorithm, and then copy paste it back into your production code if you wanted to. So definitely applicable for both senior and junior.
Simon, I was really blown away, and I'm suggesting to whoever is watching this video to try it on your own. Try all the features, see how your productivity is
supercharged.
Supercharged. Okay,
Yeah.
Get your productivity supercharged. Combine Tabnine with Quokka and tell us in the comments what you think. We're going to add download links both for Quokka and for Tabnine in the description of this video. And Simon, I want to thank you dearly for coming here today. And I know it's already a bit late down there in Australia.
It's not too bad.
Okay, great.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been good fun.